Hello, today on my channel you will hear an amazing story about life. I hope you enjoy this story. This one struck me to the core. Honestly, I still can't forget it. Enjoy watching. Well, what are you still thinking about? Mom stood over Leslie and she couldn't say anything. Today they found out where the girl wants to go to college. Are you going to keep silent? Mom asked, and sat opposite, so as not to stand over her daughter's soul. Mom, why are you bothering me? I already told you that I cannot decide. Leslie, when she was in school, made her choice in the 7th grade, when specialists from specialized colleges and institutes came to visit them. She loved the way the medics talked about their work, what they did, and everything else. It was then, at the age of 13, that she decided that she would definitely become a medic. So, when chemistry began, she began to study it in depth, did all the assignments, also went to her teacher in the evenings to solve problems together with her and explain to her what she did not understand. Both she and her teacher were sure that Leslie would easily enter the institute after she finished school and study well. But it was not destined to happen. In the 9th grade, Leslie met Harvey, and now he was against her going to the institute. After all, it's so many years of study, and then another internship, and then... He didn't even want to think about it. Well, tell me, why are you against it? We'll live in the same city, she told him. Leslie, I've already told you everything. There are many different options where you can go to study. No, you chose this one, the hardest one, he told her. And now she had a choice between a higher education institution or her favorite person. Documents were submitted to both the institute and the college. Of course, her mother didn't know about it. She only knew about the one they always talked about. Well, that's it, Mom. I'm off. Exams today. Said goodbye to the girl at home. Wait. You don't want me to go with you to support you? Asked the woman. No, Harvey will take me there and he will also support me. Leslie knew that she was deceiving her mother, but she did not want to tell or say anything. She and Harvey decided that they would tell her later, when it was too late to do anything. Harvey, are you sure that I should go to college? They were already approaching the city and Leslie still had her doubts. Are you trying to change your mind? He looked at her. Yeah, of course not. It's just that I've been dreaming about this for so many years. Preparing so much and now to just give up on my dream like this. She looked ahead and didn't look at him. So, it seems to me that you and I have already decided everything, and if now you refuse to go to college, then I think that we will have to part. He put some strange conditions to her. Stop the car, she asked him. They pulled over to the curb. Leslie unbuckled her seatbelt, turned to the young man. Tell me, why are you against it? Once again, she wanted to hear a clear answer from the young man. You realize that even if you graduate from the institute, you won't work anywhere. I just won't let you do it, he told her with certainty. Why not? The girl's mind was filled with questions. How can't you understand? A man has to provide for his woman. You are still very young. Why do you need it? You'll study 2 years in medical college. You'll graduate. You'll get a diploma. You'll get a diploma. You'll get a diploma. You'll have an education. And then, well, you'll know the basics. If someone becomes ill, you'll give first aid. Otherwise, I'll provide for you. He grinned, leaned back on the seat, took his hands on the steering wheel, and looked ahead. Do you have any idea what my mom will say after this? She was only afraid of one thing right now. What do I care what your mom will say, and you should not care about it? For his part, he also did not understand that this girl was so grabbed by this institute. Okay, let's go. Leslie buckled up, sat up straight, and stared out the window. There were different thoughts in her head, but now, perhaps due to her youth, she between studying at the institute and her favorite chose it. Naturally, the girl easily entered. The exams were very easy. Now she was enrolled in medical school. She was provided with a dormitory, but since Harvey lived in this city, he said she would live with him. What? When do you plan to tell your mother? the young man asked her. I'm not going to tell her at all. If she finds out, she will. And if she doesn't, I won't tell her at all, the girl said. I see that you are getting bolder, he laughed at her. Now every evening Harvey went somewhere, and Leslie sat and prepared for lessons. Yes, she could not say anything. It was also interesting to study here, but still, higher education and secondary education were fundamentally different from each other. On Friday with friends we go to the country. While it's warm, we should have time to relax, Harvey told her once. I cannot on Friday, the girl replied. Why not? He didn't understand. Well, as why? I study, and on Friday and Saturday I have classes. I cannot miss them, she replied. Perhaps to some extent Leslie had a syndrome of excellent girl, so she always did everything right. And now, because she had once cheated on her mom, she felt bad. Yes, do not make up you. What lessons? Study has just begun. What do they give you there? Some basics that you have long known. He treated her education as something frivolous. Harvey, why don't we go on Saturday night? Let everyone go and we'll drive up later, she asked him. What Saturday night? He wouldn't take no for an answer. And this time Leslie couldn't resist him. She hadn't said anything to anyone. She just didn't go to class on Friday. They went to the countryside. The girl didn't know Harvey's friends, so she wasn't very interested in them. She sat and thought that it would be better if she were at school now, and on Saturday she would come to them herself. What are we doing here? Harvey came up to her. You only hang out with them, you don't come near me at all, she told him. They are my friends. That's what I socialize with them. He did not understand what Leslie's problem was at all. A day later they arrived home. Of course, the curator asked the girl on Monday why she wasn't at the Paris. She said it was for family reasons, so she was absent. The same friends invited the couple to their country house. They said they would sit in the house, and outside they would roast meat. Harvey, do you realize that now I'm going to have to miss 2 days again? She realized that both Harvey and his friends were all working. And on Friday nights when they were free after work, they could afford to leave, but she couldn't do that. Leslie, what's the matter with your studies? He didn't realize it at all, and this time the girl listened to him. And when it began to repeat more and more often, the curator of the group where Leslie studied, there was nothing left but to call her mother to the college. Do you know why I'm being called to your school? Her mother asked her when she arrived for the weekend. I guess, replied the daughter calmly. She didn't look her mother in the eye. Why don't you explain? The woman asked her. When you get there, you'll find out for yourself. Leslie was ashamed to admit what she had done. Perhaps that's where it all started, the mother-daughter rift. On Monday they went to study together, and when the mother went to the office, where she was already waiting, the daughter went to other classes. Hello, walked Selina through the doors of the classroom. And come in, you, Leslie's mom greeted her supervisor. Yes, she took a seat in a chair across from her. I can't say anything bad about your daughter. She's a good student. Her grades are excellent, but week after week she misses too. 3 days, doesn't come to college at all, the woman at the desk told her. You know, I will definitely talk to her tonight, and I don't think it will happen again. The mother was in such a distraught state of mind that no one could describe it. She walked first out of the office and then out of the college itself, sat down on a bench, and decided to wait for her daughter here. Leslie came out with her girlfriends, saw her mom, and immediately headed toward her. Her heart was pounding frantically in her chest. And what, in a normal institute you study? Asked her Selina, who still did not know that her daughter is not studying where she thought. Mom, don't start. It's been more than half of the school year. What's the big deal now? She sat down next to Selina and again didn't look at her. Okay, let's go to your Harvey. I'm about to tell him everything, the woman was saying. Mom, maybe you shouldn't. I wanted to stop her daughter. Yeah, what do you mean, don't? I thought he was a grown-up guy. He has a head on his shoulders. You need an education, such a bright head. You could easily get in, study at this institute, then find a good job. And now you're going to work as a hospital nurse, Selena shouted all over the street. Mom, please don't shout. Leslie looked around. She was ashamed in front of those who went in and out of the college gates. Wouldn't you be ashamed to take the ducks out for the sick? Her mother tried to shame her. They got on the bus, got to the right stop, got off at it, headed for the house where Harvey and Leslie lived. There was no one in the apartment, so her mother sat down in a chair and folded her arms across her chest. Are you just going to sit there? Her daughter asked her. Why? I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait for him, the woman replied. Well, why are you so against the fact that we were together and I studied in college? If there is time later, I can go to the institute. The girl told her. She was on the verge of crying. How can't you understand, silly? You are so young now, and you are thinking in the wrong place. In a few years, your Harvey will leave you and you have no profession or education. The mother looked at her daughter, showing her that she did not wish her harm. Mom, Harvey will never leave me, Leslie said naively. Yes, we'll see however else you'll leave him. The woman stood her ground. At that moment, the doors opened and a rustle was heard in the hallway. Harvey, is that you? Leslie went that way. Yes, hello. Terribly tired. I want to eat and rest. He passed into the room and saw Selena. Well, hello, future son-in-law, she said sarcastically. Hello, what are you doing here? He did not understand. Here, called to study, as I thought in the institute, but no. In some Sharashkin office to tell that my daughter skipped school, not because of you. She stood on her feet and looked point blank at the young man. If you're in such a mood, I don't intend to talk to you, he answered her, and went to change his clothes. No, you will listen to me. She stopped him by the arm. What else is there? He looked at Selena. And nothing. Since she chose you, and not the institute, so be kind. Let at least here to study to get a normal diploma, and then at any time to take and enter the institute, spoke Leslie's mother. And what? I do not give her. She sits at home all day long. She prepares, reads, goes to the library sometimes. Did not understand Harvey. Well, what about absences then, from Thursday to Sunday, then from Friday? She reminded him. Oh, what about the absences, that they take place on Saturday? Everyone has the day off. Harvey furrowed his brow. So, either we agree with you amicably, or Leslie. You move to live in the dormitory. The mother turned to her daughter. What's wrong with my apartment? Harvey didn't understand her. I'm not satisfied with the apartment. I'm not satisfied with you, the mother said directly into his eyes. After that, she looked at her watch, realized that she still had time for the last train, so she took her things, wagged her finger at the young people, and left the apartment. The acquaintance of Harvey and Leslie happened once very spontaneously. The girl then studied in the 9th grade. It was the end of spring. Studies were coming to an end. Summer vacation was approaching. Maria came to visit her grandmother for the weekend. They were neighbors, Leslie's parents, so the girls had been friends since childhood. Maria often came to visit her grandmother. With the neighbor girl, they very quickly found a common language. Here and today, there was a knock on the door. On the threshold stood a happy girl. Leslie, hello. They hugged each other. Shall we go for a walk today? Maria asked her. I don't even know. Shrugged her shoulders. She realized that tomorrow was a day off. There was no need to do homework. It was possible to go for a walk, but she was afraid that her mother would not let her go. Selena gave birth to her daughter late, so now she brought her up very strictly. Oh, come on. When will I come back? I come here once in 5 years, and you can't even walk with me. Maria pretended to be offended. Okay, wait. Leslie went back to the apartment. She went to her mom, who was sitting on the couch. Who's there? The woman asked her daughter. Maria came to her grandmother. Calls for a walk. Can I go with her? Leslie asked her. You can, but only for a short time. Selena couldn't stand not being listened to or not doing what she wanted. Okay, we'll be a couple hours and I'll be home. promised her daughter. She quickly changed her pants, put on her sneakers, and was ready to go out. "So, did they let you go?" Maria asked her. "Well, as you can see," Maria spread her arms out to the sides and showed her that she was ready to go out. "Well, let's all go then." The girls came down from the entrance. They walked around the city for a bit, then went back to the courtyard and sat down at a table. "It's my birthday next weekend. Will you come?" Maria asked her friend. "Oh, I don't know. If my mom will let me." Maria lived in the city where Leslie wanted to study afterwards. It was only 30 minutes away by train, but even that distance was enough for her mom not to let her go. "If you want me to come in and talk to Selena, I'm sure she won't be able to refuse me," Maria said to Leslie. "No, let me talk to her first. And then, if it doesn't work out, you'll come to my rescue," she smiled. "Okay then," agreed. "I'll wait for you on Saturday. Come only early on the second train at lunchtime to help me set the table," asked Maria. "Okay," agreed. They sat outside for a while, and together they went into the entrance. Leslie didn't talk to her mom that evening because she needed to think things through. She was still in school from Monday, and on Wednesday, having not thought of anything when she and Selena were eating dinner in the kitchen, she decided to talk. "Mom, it's Maria's birthday on Saturday. She's inviting me." Leslie sat eating pasta. "And where will she celebrate?" The woman at this moment, something was cooking on the stove. She froze and turned to her daughter. "Well, where? At her house?" Leslie understood that her mother meant Maria's grandmother. "Leslie, are you sure?" The mother took a seat on a stool that stood near the table. "Mom, some of them are going to go to study in that city after 9th grade. They will live there separately in a dormitory, get home by themselves," began to tell her daughter, hinting that she is already independent. "Okay, I trust you. You have a head on your shoulders, so go. But on Sunday on the first train to come back, set the condition, Selena." "Okay," agreed. Leslie had no idea she would be able to persuade her mom so easily. After that, the 2 days that remained until Saturday, the girl prepared for the trip. She knew that her friends would be coming to see Mariah, so a decent outfit had to be chosen. On Saturday, when her lessons were over, she went home after school, put her bag down, took her necessary things, her purse, and went to the train station. On the way, the girl did not think about anything. At the station, of course, no one met her because Maria did not know exactly at what time her friend would arrive, but she herself knew how to get to her friend. Leslie came to the bus stop, got on the first bus, and drove off. "Hi, you're here after all." Maria was happy when she saw her friend. "I myself am shocked when I told my mom about the birthday. She easily let me go, did not even stop," Leslie admitted to her. "It's good. It means that parents see that we are growing up and begin to trust us." The girls went to the kitchen where Maria's mom was cooking different dishes. "Hello, Sophia," said hello to her guest. "Oh, Nastenka, come in now. Daddy will take apart the table in the hall, and then you will set it," the woman ordered. "Yes, Comrade General," Maria said, laughing. Now they were in the kitchen cutting sausage, cheese, bread, and various vegetables to put on the table. Maria's mother was busy at the stove at this time. There was much more to be done. After that, as agreed, her father set the table. Maria ironed the tablecloth, laid it out. By this time, the appetizers that the girls had cut up had been moved into the room, and Sophia said they would serve the hot food in the evening, so it wouldn't get cold. The guests were due at 7 o'clock, so at 6 the father and mother of the birthday girl began to pack. "That's it, girls. We're off. You're here. Let's not spoil ourselves." The mother kissed her daughter, congratulated her once again on her birthday. The father just stood there smiling. He understood that everyone is young, and almost everyone had the same thing. "Maria, who's coming to see you?" The girls had been left alone in the apartment and were now going to the room. "A couple of friends from school, girls from the yard, and guys I know," she began to list. What kind of guys? Leslie wondered. She had never heard from Maria that she was friends with anyone. "Yeah, well, they're acquaintances too." The birthday girl brushed it off. Everything was ready. The guests began to arrive one, second, third. They gave gifts, said beautiful words to Maria. After that, everyone sat down at the table. "Are we dry today?" One of the guys looked at the table where there was nothing else but compote. "Why not?" Maria got up from the table. She brought a beer from the kitchen, which her parents had bought for her themselves, and allowed her to relax a little. Oh, this is different." The young people immediately burst into laughter. At first, everything was fine. Maria and Leslie went to the kitchen. They put the hot food on plates, spread it out to the guests. Everyone sat, got acquainted. And then, when already the young people were tired of sitting at the table, they decided to shake things up a little, turned on the music and began to dance. The light was turned off, it burned only in the corridor, and through the door a little bit got into the room. "Hi, did you come to us from out of town?" At some point, one of the young men came over to Leslie. "Yes," she nodded. "Me, Eric," he smiled. "I know." Leslie looked at him, not understanding why he was telling her his name again, since they had all met at the beginning of the evening. "Well, to remind you of your names in case you don't remember, there are a lot of us and you're alone," he told her. He had a bottle of beer in his hand. "Leslie, let's go to the kitchen and talk," Maria called her. When Leslie went there, she saw that one of the girls who was visiting her friend was sitting in the kitchen. As soon as she went in there, the door was immediately closed. "Are you hitting on my boyfriend?" The one sitting in the kitchen asked her. Leslie frantically remembered her name. "Who's hitting on who?" she replied. "Anyway, he's mine. And if you go near him again, you'll find out what will happen to you." Leslie stood up and left the kitchen. Leslie finally remembered her name. "Yeah, it hurts. I need you guys," said Leslie to herself already. She went back into the room. All the guys were sitting, some in a chair, some on the couch, some were dancing. And when the rhythmic music started playing, they all got up again. "What? Did she talk to you?" Eric came up to her again. "You don't need to approach me. You are provoking her on purpose," asked him Leslie. "Come on, it's only her who thinks I'm her boyfriend. I'm really not," he told the girl. "Don't you get it?" At this point, Leslie flew up to her and grabbed her by the hair. "Let go." Leslie broke free and looked at Maria. She stood back and didn't say a word. "I told you, God forbid you go near him," Leslie repeated again. "Maria, what's going on here?" Leslie didn't understand, and there's no reason to hit on other people's guys. Took the side of those girls' friend. "What? I didn't expect this from you." Leslie quickly ran down the hallway. She grabbed her windbreaker, put on her shoes, and ran outside. She sat down on a bench in the yard and cried because she couldn't hold back any longer. When she calmed down a little, she realized that it was late, and she couldn't go home now. But she didn't want to go back to Maria's place. "What am I going to do now?" She started to look around. Leslie was already thinking of going to the train station and waiting for the first train there. She sat on the bench for some time, thinking that her friend would still come out after her because she realized that Leslie was in a strange city. She had nowhere to go. And so, when the doors opened in the entrance, Leslie got up from the bench, smiled, and walked towards her. But it wasn't Maria at all. It was some young man. Then, Leslie went back to the bench. It was getting colder and colder outside. She buttoned her windbreaker, shivered, and decided that now she would wait until this man left the yard and went to the station. "Hi, why are you sitting here?" He came up to her. Leslie herself does not understand why, but she began to shiver inside. Maybe she was cold. Maybe she was scared. It was unclear at the time. "It's just that we had a fight at a friend's birthday party, so I went out for some fresh air," she chided him. "You're shivering like a leaf in the wind." He took off his light coat and threw it over her shoulders. "Thank you." She hadn't expected such a gesture from him. The guy sat down next to her. It was obvious he wasn't hot either. "What are you going to do?" He asked a new question. "I don't know." Leslie turned to him then and looked into his eyes. Somehow she wasn't scared of this guy. On the contrary, she believed him. "Come with me." He held out his hand to her, brought her to the car, opened the doors, put her in the passenger seat, then sat down behind the row, turned on the heater. "Do you need to be taken somewhere?" he asked her. "My name is Leslie." She realized at that moment that they had not yet met, and she was already sitting in his car. "And I'm Harvey," he told her, and smiled because he realized it too. "You know, I live in the next town to there. Not so far, but not so close either." She turned away from him and looked out the window. "No problem, I'll drive you there now," he shrugged. And they drove out of the yard. Leslie drove, and the only thing on her mind right now was that Maria didn't care where she was or what was happening to her. She hadn't even gotten out behind her to stop her. And after all, her friend was on her way to see her. If something happened to her now, the search would start with Maria. So Harvey drove Leslie home, but she continued to worry. "What are you doing?" The young man saw her confusion. "Look, what am I going to tell my mom now? Why I came home now, and what I came home on, and who brought me here?" She looked at him fearfully. He looked at her with such kind eyes and was so decent that Leslie couldn't help but believe him. Later, when she will remember this meeting, she will wonder how she was not afraid, sat with a stranger in the car, went somewhere and even spent the night with him. But at that moment, the girl did not think about it. They really stood somewhere, talked, drove around, and by 7 in the morning, when the first train was to arrive, the guy brought her to the entrance. "Will I see you again?" he asked her. "Well, if you come, of course we will." Leslie smiled at him and got out of the car. "Of course I will. To such a beautiful girl, try not to come." He smiled, winked at her when she looked back at the entrance, waved. After that, Harvey didn't arrive until a week later. He knocked on the door. She opened it and came right out onto the landing. "Why are you so scared?" he asked her. "Just like last time." "Why did you come? My mom is at home." "If she sees you, she won't let me go anywhere," she told him quietly. "And how was I supposed to inform you that I had arrived?" "Well, you would have waited outside, gone for a walk. We would have met," Leslie suggested. "And if she hadn't," he smiled, put his finger to his lips and pointed downward. "I'll be right there." She nodded her head that she understood. "That's it. I'll wait for you in the car," he told her, starting to walk downstairs. When Leslie returned to the apartment, her mother naturally asked who was there. "Yes, so? The guys from the class came, asked if I did not write down my homework today," said casually girl. "And you what?" The mother saw that most likely the daughter is lying. Because how can you not write down homework? And if she wrote it down, why she did not give it to them? "Nothing. That's it, Mom. I'm going to change and go for a walk." The daughter waved her away. "How to go out, and with whom?" Selina asked her. "Well, meet with the girls, as usual. What kind of interrogation did you give me?" She did not understand. "Leslie, I think you are hiding something from me," the mother guessed, but did not want to say it in advance. Then her daughter will tell her. "Mom, don't get any ideas." Leslie quickly changed her clothes and left the apartment. 9 o'clock to be home, her mother looked behind her. "Okay," Leslie looked up. She looked at the clock. The time was 6 in the evening. The girl came out of the driveway, saw Harvey's car, ran up to it, sat in the same seat she had sat in when he brought her here. "So, how's it going with your mom?" he asked her. "Nothing. You know how strict she is. 1 step to the left and 1 step to the right is a firing squad," Leslie said. "I see." Harvey shook his head. "I'm off until 9 o'clock tonight," she said guiltily. "Until 9, so until 9, we have 3 hours to spare." He was optimistic. "Where are we going?" Leslie asked him. "Well, you should tell me. We are in your city, not mine." He laughed. "Come on, as if you don't know anything here." The girl tapped him on the knee. "Come on, let's go. You have a nice cafe open. Let's sit there for a while," he invited her. Leslie felt so grown up and proud that she was in a car with a young man. If her classmates could see her now, they would be jealous. But as luck would have it, there was no one in town today. As Harvey had promised, they sat in a cafe for a while. But it was boring, so they drove through the streets again. They drove back and forth, and when the time was 9:30, they were on their way back to Leslie's yard. When they stopped near the driveway and were already saying goodbye, Selina came up to them. "Hello, young man," she said to Harvey in a tone that made it clear that there would be no happy talk now. "Hello, my name is Harvey. I'm a friend of your daughter." He looked at her. "Aha, I see who you are." She shifted her eyes to Leslie. "Okay, you get out of the car, you go home, and I need to talk to you," she commanded her daughter while she glared menacingly at the young man. "Mom, please," Leslie begged her. "I said go home." The woman didn't want to hear any complaints. She went around the car, opened the door, let Leslie out, and herself got into her seat. "Harvey, do you know how old my daughter is?" She started this conversation. "I know, but I don't do anything." He sat staring ahead. Of course, I understand everything. The car, age, probably. There's an apartment, but she is still a teenager studying in the 9th grade. Where do you go? Did not understand the woman. "Well, she's already finished 9th grade, Harvey interrupted her. "Almost done," Selina corrected him. "All right, what do you want?" he asked the woman. "For you to get off my daughter's back," she answered honestly. "Well, what if we're in love?" he suggested. "What love? How many times have you met?" Selina asked. "Today is the 2nd. But already for such a short time, I have already managed to realize that your daughter I do not care about." Now he turned to Selina Semyonovna and looked her in the eyes. "All right, that's enough talk. I said that I am against your relationship." She showed that this was her last word, opened the door, and got out of the car, headed for the entrance. At home, a scandal worse than the one in the car with Harvey broke out. When her mother walked in, Leslie was sitting in her room on the couch waiting for her. "Mom, I love him." She stood up to meet the woman. Another took off Selina's shoes. "What do you mean?" Her daughter didn't understand. "That one also screams that he loves you, even though you've only met twice." The woman did not want to argue. She went into the room, sat on the couch. Leslie was crying. "Why are you shedding tears? You need to study, enroll, and he, what can he give you? Yes, there is a car, but it is unknown where he got it, where he works, who he is in general. You know nothing about him, and I already love," raised her mother's hands up. "Mom, he is good. I feel people when we first met. I could have been scared, not believe him, but for some reason, I believed him," began to tell her Leslie. "So I don't know anything, but you're not dating anymore," and in their conversation, Selina put a stop to it, but Leslie couldn't let it go. Now that summer vacation had begun, she was going out. Harvey already knew he wasn't supposed to show his face to her mom. They would meet somewhere in the yard, agree on where they would meet, and only then would she go there and he would come. All this time they were together. Her mother saw some of it, but she couldn't keep the two of them apart. "Leslie, realize you're doing something stupid," Selina kept telling her. "Mom, this is my problem. I love him. We've been together for almost a year, and I know that we will continue to be together. Harvey loves me. He's willing to do anything for me." At these words, Leslie was constantly crying. "I know the kind will use and leave." The woman could not calm down. She realized that this love will not lead to good. And now, when her daughter had to enroll, she couldn't make up her mind. Selina was once again convinced that she was right. When Leslie had gone without her after 11th grade, she had already suspected something wrong. But there was still some trust left in her daughter, so she let her go with him. By then the woman, you could say, had come to terms a little with the fact that the pair were together. But now, when she was called to this college and told that her daughter was skipping classes and everything else, she realized for sure that this man was no match for her. They need to break up immediately. After talking to Harvey at his house about her daughter skipping classes and she needs to study, Selina got on the train, and all the way home she thought about what and how to do to get her daughter away from this view. She came up with a plan, and she wanted to put it into action next weekend. "Leslie, you?" she called her Thursday night. "Yes, Mom, is something wrong?" The girl got excited. "Yes, I feel so bad. Can you come home?" Selina asked, because lately Leslie had stopped coming to see her on weekends too. "Look, Harvey had some plans I don't even know," the girl was saying, and the mother on the other end of the phone was just getting angry. "You'd trade your own mother like everything else for him." She couldn't help herself. "Okay, Mom, I'll think of something. And I'll definitely come," Leslie replied and hung up the phone. After that conversation, she waited for Harvey. She needed to talk to him. She had never had any secrets from him, so now she wanted to tell the whole truth. "Harvey, I'm going to my mom's for the weekend," she told him, looking him in the eye. "What, Mom? You and I were going to a friend's house." He looked surprised. "You see, she called saying she wasn't feeling well." Leslie stopped talking because she didn't know what to say next. "Okay, do you want me to take you there?" he asked her. "No, I'll drive myself because you know how she feels about you. She'll get even more agitated. It'll be even worse." Now she was thinking about her mom's condition. "Okay, I'll get through the weekend without you." Harvey turned away, showing his girlfriend that he was offended by her. On Friday after classes, Leslie wanted to catch the train, but she couldn't, so she came home. It wasn't until Saturday morning that she went to her mother's house. On the way, she wondered how their weekend would go, and what she would do if her mother was really badly hurt. "Mom, I'm home." Leslie walked into the apartment. "Hi, come in." Her mother kept playing her game, told her she wasn't feeling well. She should have shown her that. "What do you have? Why did not you call an ambulance?" asked the daughter. "It is so, a slight ailment. Just really wanted to see you," said the woman. Leslie went to the kitchen, saw that there was something cooked, returned to the room, scolded her mother for the fact that she was so bad, and she still continues to cook. "It's no big deal. Have a seat." Her mother patted her hand next to her. Leslie sat down on the edge of the couch where her mother lay. They were both silent. Tonight the evening went normally. The girl even wanted to go out to meet her girlfriends, but at the last moment changed her mind. And on Sunday morning, Mom started her record again. "Leslie, please think well. Well, really, this man will pull you to the bottom." She began to tell her about Harvey. "Mother, are you at it again?" She turned to her, afraid to agitate the woman. "Yes, I'm doing it for me. For you, because I'm worried," she said. "We're fine. I'll graduate from college. We'll get married and we'll have a wonderful family," Leslie explained to her. "You're not going to have anything." My mother jumped up from the couch. "Ah, so that's how bad you feel." Now Leslie just realized why she had been called here. "I want you to move into the dorm," the woman said firmly. "I don't want you to." Her daughter glared at her. "So, Leslie, stop bickering with me. I am still your mother. You are still studying. You are my dependent, so, as I said, so it will be," Selina said sternly. "Goodbye. I have a train in an hour. I do not intend to listen to this," said her daughter, took her bag and wanted to leave the house. "Listen to me." Her mom took her hand. "What else?" Leslie turned to her. She didn't want to talk anymore. "If you go to him now, I'll curse you for the rest of your life." The woman wanted to scare her daughter with this, but it only made things worse. "How can you say that to your daughter?" Leslie didn't understand. "I told you, if you leave the threshold of this apartment, you can no longer come here. Do not come stay with your Harvey and live with him." These were the last words of Selina, because Leslie ripped her hand and left the apartment. She walked to the train station, not knowing where she was going because tears covered her eyes. All passers-by who saw the girl at that moment thought that she had something happen. When she got home, Harvey was already there. "Why are you so early? I wanted to meet you in the evening." He stood up to meet her. "Thank you, my love," she kissed him, and the tears came out of her eyes again. "What's wrong?" He didn't understand. "Yes, My mother threw me out of the house and told me not to come to her anymore, not to call, and in general she wants to curse us with you, the girl told him. Why did I displease her so much? The young man didn't understand. And I also do not understand it, said aloud Leslie. After that, their life continued as before. She studied, he worked somewhere, time passed, but Leslie never called her mother, and she didn't show any signs that she was ready to reconcile with her daughter. How can two relatives live like that? Harvey didn't understand. Everything is normal, apparently, and so in life happens, Leslie told him. Now they lived together, and at first glance they were fine. Harvey was out every day, Leslie was studying. Harvey, tell me, where do you work? Leslie asked him, when she had only a few weeks left to study. Do you care about that much? He asked her, kind of rudely. She shrugged her shoulders, realizing that she didn't want to make Harvey emotional. That's all, don't ask. Less you know, sleep better. That was his catchphrase. Life moved on. Leslie got her diploma, which she was overjoyed about. Then she and Harvey decided to celebrate. He invited her to a restaurant. When they sat there, the girl decided to tell the young man that maybe she should still go to the institute, but he only rolled his eyes, showing all the views that they had already talked about this topic, and he did not support her. And after that, Leslie sat at home all summer, not knowing what to do. And then a friend of hers offered her a job at the hospital as a nurse. Of course I'll take it. Leslie grasped the job like a straw. She came home that evening and told Harvey that she was going to work for a while. Why would you do that? He didn't understand. How can you not understand? I'm home alone all the time. I have nothing to do, and here at least there will be some team with someone to talk to, something to do. The day will be busy, answered him. Well, I don't know. He was kind of nervous that evening. When they sat down to dinner in the evening, he put his hand on the girl's arm and smiled. What? She didn't understand why he was like that. Leslie, will you be my wife? He handed her a ring. It was an ordinary wedding ring without a box, without any stone, a simple gold ring. But Leslie was very glad of it. She smiled, walked over to her lover, put her arms around him, and they started kissing. So you didn't answer me? He broke away from her. Of course I did. She couldn't even imagine any other answer. So, you don't have to worry about the wedding. My friends will organize everything. Do you have girlfriends? He looked at her, realizing that in all the time they'd lived here, she'd hung out with someone from college, but she'd never had a real friend. Yes? There is one, and you even know her. She lives 2 floors up. Leslie was talking about Maria. They haven't talked to each other since she ran away. Maria came over a couple times, but Leslie never forgave her for that night. You don't talk to her, do you? Harvey didn't understand. Well, that's what I'm saying. There are no girlfriends. Leslie became sad. She knew it herself. Still, do not worry. Everything will be, the young man promised her. Leslie went to work. The team was small, friendly. Everyone talked to each other. No one collected any gossip. This pleased the girl very much because usually in collectives it is different. Every day she got acquainted with someone new, and when she had been working for 2 weeks, she had several girlfriends in the department. Girls, you know I have a wedding coming up and I want to invite you, Leslie confided. You're so young to be getting married, you'll get rich. You should live for yourselves, one of the nurses told her, Kathy. No, Harvey and I have been together for a long time, and I would like to tie my fate with him, Leslie said dreamily. Well, that's your business. But have you bought a dress yet? Lucy, who was working here, asked. To be honest, not yet. Harvey said that he would take care of everything himself, so I'm not interfering, said Leslie. Harvey, the bride, has to choose her own dress, Katie told her. Would you help me? The girl asked modestly. With pleasure, said Katie and Lucy. In the evening, when Leslie was home, she told Harvey that she finally had friends, and now she wanted to choose the wedding dress herself. I don't mind that at all. He left her some money. So when the girls had the weekend off, they all went shopping together to buy a dress. For 4 whole hours they were in the bridal salon, trying it on, choosing, discussing. One like this one, the other like the other. But Leslie, when she put on another dress and looked at herself in the mirror, she just fell in love with this dress and said that she was ready to take it off no more. "Oh, you are really right. We like it too," her friends confirmed her. Overjoyed, they left the salon. Leslie invited them to sit in the cafe, drink coffee, eat some dessert. No one refused. They came in and started discussing how the wedding was going to go. "Girls, to be honest, I don't know. Everything is arranged by my future husband, so it will be a surprise for me too," the future bride honestly said. "And what about the parents?" Katie looked at Leslie. "It's better not to ask about that," she told her. "Why?" Katie was meticulous. She had to get to the truth. "Harvey told me right away not to ask anything about his parents, only when I met him and got to know him. And my mother hasn't spoken to me for a long time." The girl admitted. "Oh, what did you have to do that your mother doesn't communicate with you?" Lucy entered the conversation. "You should have just started living with Harvey," laughed Leslie. The girls realized they were prying into her soul and stopped talking. When the wedding was a few days away, Kathy insisted that Leslie spend the night at her place. "It's not proper for future husband and wife to spend the night together," she told Harvey with Leslie. "And tomorrow you'll come over. We'll dress her up and you'll take her away from us." Lucy looked at the groom. All right, agreed," smiled the latter. The next day, the young man arrived in a beautiful black suit. He had a few friends with him. And when Leslie came out of the entrance, everyone just aghast. She was wearing a very pretty dress that suited her very well. Her hair was simple, soft waves, loose on her shoulders, and there was minimal makeup on her face. Harvey walked up to her, gave her a hug. "I don't believe you're going to be my wife today," he whispered in her ear. They went to the registry office where they were signed. After that, there was a restaurant. "Shit, Leslie. Who does he work for that he could rent such a luxurious hall?" Looked around Lucy. "To be honest, I don't know myself," she admitted to her new friend. "What do you mean?" Katie asked her. "That's it, and don't ask me anything. He's a husband. He has money and power, and I'm so..." Laughed Leslie, though hearing her words, she felt a little offended by it. Now, although nothing had changed, only her surname had changed, and there was a stamp in her passport. But Leslie had new responsibilities. She felt some responsibility and something else. She continued to work, to be friends with the girls. It was idyllic at home. True, Harvey was often not at home, but it did not embarrass the girl at all. She also spent a lot of time at work. "Honey, I'm home." He'd come in. "Hi." She came out to meet him. "Come on. Dinner has long been ready." She looked at him with loving eyes. And so it went on for several years. There was everything: money, work, love. The only thing missing was children. Leslie was getting very upset about that. She would have wanted a little one, so that she would have someone to give her care and love to. But since God didn't give it to her, she couldn't do anything about it. Leslie came to work one day, brought champagne candy. "What's the occasion?" Katie saw her. "Girls, have you forgotten?" She looked at them. "What are we supposed to remember?" Katie looked at Lucy. "Today is 10 years since Harvey and I have been married," Leslie said. "Wow, how time flies," Kathy marveled. "Yes," Leslie answered quickly. And now, for some reason, she thought of her mom. It had been years since they had talked to her. The girls sat down at the table, opened the champagne, began to remember how everything was that day, and various other things. "So, how was life in general?" Katie asked Leslie. "I can't say anything bad, but I can't say anything good either. Something's been going on with Harvey lately. He can yell out of the blue, forbid something, or do something he's never done before. And he's all jumpy and twitchy," Leslie said. "So maybe he's seeing someone," Katie suggested. "No, girls, it can't be," said Leslie. and she thought about it because she had never even thought about it. Well, no. So no did not bother her friend. They continued to work. The hospital was still the same, helping the sick. But at home, Leslie was getting worse every day. It had been a couple more years of their life together. Today, she came home early on purpose, thinking that her husband would make her some kind of holiday. But he came home late as usual. She was almost asleep. "Harvey, why are you so late?" Leslie got up from the bed and came to him. "Leslie, go to bed," he answered her. The man was really very nervous and reacted to every word or action differently than before. "Tell me what is happening to you." His wife sat down next to him. "What could be going on with me?" "It's okay," he shrugged when she put her hand there. "I can see that not everything is fine." Leslie said it in a harsh way that even she noticed it herself. "What do you want from me?" It was the first time he'd ever spoken to her so rudely. "I want to know why you didn't congratulate me on our wedding anniversary today for the first time in years, especially such a date," she asked him directly. "Yes. What wedding anniversary? No one celebrates all that anymore." He stood up in the kitchen and went to the room. Leslie felt so hurt by this. But she didn't say anything and went to her room too. They slept in separate beds tonight. He in the hall, on the couch. She in the bedroom. The next day, Leslie came to work with puffy eyes. "Had you been crying?" Lucy asked her. "No reason," Leslie told her. "Yes, it was your 10th wedding anniversary yesterday. I don't think you were crying with happiness," her friend told her. "There's something very wrong with Harvey," Leslie decided to complain to her. "I'm telling you, check it out. He's got someone else, and he can't live on 2 families," Lucy told her, from whom her husband had also left her. The more Leslie was told this, the more she wondered if it was really true. Then she brushed those thoughts away again. Sitting pensive when she heard shouting coming from the hallway, she realized that something strange was going on down there. When Leslie ran out there, she saw that doctors, nurses, orderlies, everyone was there. They are pushing a gurney in front of them with a man lying on it. "Who is it? What's with him?" The girl began to wonder. "Leslie, wait, don't get in the way," Katie told her. She was helping with something. After everything calmed down, Leslie learned that a policeman was admitted to the hospital with a wound. He'd had surgery and was now in intensive care, still under anesthesia. She didn't know why, but she wanted to go to him, to look at him, to feel sorry for him. She'd never had that feeling before. She'd told Katie and Lucy about it, and they'd only twisted their thumbs. "He's got a wife and kids. Where are you going?" they told her. "I'm not doing it for that. I'm just being human," she told them. Leslie didn't understand why she was so interested, but she was waiting, and for some reason she was worried about that policeman, how he was doing, and what happened to him. And when he was transferred to the ward, the first thing she did was to ask how he was doing. He was lying there unconscious, or maybe just sleeping, sometimes coming to moaning. Now that Harvey was out very often, she had asked the doctor to put her on night duty so she could be near Billy. That was the policeman's name. "Well, hello." She stopped by his room every night. Leslie would take some book with her, sit down and read it aloud. Billy, at some moments, came to his senses. He looked at the girl, he liked her, and the first time he could say a word, he asked her what her name was. "My name is Leslie, but don't talk too much. Your body is still weak," she told him. "I've heard everything you've read to me," he answered her. For some reason at these moments the girl felt so ashamed. Billy was on the mend quickly. He and Leslie were like best friends now, able to talk about anything. "Would you go out with me?" he asked me once. "You're funny, and where are we going to go?" "To the cafeteria." She smiled back. He could go to the cafeteria. He could tell he liked the girl. "Billy, why doesn't anyone come to you?" She was so curious. Although, to tell the truth, with this question she wanted to know if he had anyone. "All my relatives live far away, and here I haven't managed to get acquainted with anyone yet. I was transferred to this ward only recently," he confessed to her. "Do you want me to read to you?" she often asked. "Sure. if it's not too much trouble, he said. Katie and Lucy had long ago seen that their friend had a thing with a man, but they never said anything about it. "Bye, girls, bye. I'm going home," Leslie said, grabbed her things and left the hospital. She'd come home, see Harvey asleep. It seemed strange to her because before he was always out during the day, gone until the evening. But now, whenever she came home from duty, he was always asleep. No matter how much she woke him up, no matter what she said, he just waved her away. Today she came to work earlier than usual. Katie and Lucy were still here. "What did you bring for your lover today?" They were teasing her. "Girls, come on. He's not her favorite. We're just good friends," she said of Billy. "Yeah, we can see how you get along." They laughed. "What's going on at home?" Katie asked. "Nothing," Leslie avoided answering. Billy looked forward to seeing her every day. He couldn't imagine a day when Leslie didn't come to see him. "Why are you so sad?" he asked her. "Don't mind her. Just a little trouble at home," she told him. "Will you tell him?" He wanted to know everything about this girl. "Of course it's bad. But lately my husband and I have been having a bad time. During the day while I'm home, he sleeps. In the evening, when I go on duty, he just starts to wake up." The girl began to tell him. "Are you sure he's home at night?" Billy asked her a question that Leslie herself had been wondering about for a long time. "I don't want to talk about it," she said honestly. "You know, sometimes you have to talk about a problem to solve it." He sat down next to her on the bed. "How will I know if he's not home?" She looked up at the man. "Come on. I'm about to be discharged and you and I will check it out," he suggested to her. "Okay." She shrugged then, but thought to herself that it was now that Billy needed her help, and he was always at her side. And then, when he was discharged, there wouldn't be such frequent meeting. "You're sad again?" He stroked her head. "Don't," she dodged him. "Why?" He didn't understand. "Billy, I'm married. I can't do this." She never hid anything from him. "All right," he agreed with her. When discharge day came, Leslie was very sad that now he would leave, and they might never meet again. She shared this with her girlfriend. "Why do you think so? If he liked you, and he is a good, decent man, he will come. He will definitely come," Lucy told her. "Where would he come to?" "To my husband's." "So to my husband, to my husband, to my husband, to my husband, to my husband. You and your husband. When did you last speak to him?" The girls had also realized lately that things weren't going well at home with Leslie. They knew it had to do with Harvey. But no matter how much they talked, she wasn't listening to anyone. A day passed, a second day, a week, and Billy was still gone. But Leslie was prepared for that, so she wasn't too upset. And then, a month later, he came. "Leslie," he called out to her as she walked down the hall. "Billy." She looked at him. She wasn't expecting him, he guessed. Of course she wasn't, she admitted honestly. They went to a quiet corner and sat down to talk. "Remember I promised you I'd help you with your husband? Do you still want that?" he asked her. "I don't even know." Leslie lowered her head. All this time she'd been thinking how much she liked Billy, but she couldn't even in her mind let on that they would be together with him. How would she leave the house? What would she say to her husband? Now, as she listened to herself, she realized that inside there were no more feelings for Harvey. "Well, make up your mind. If you agree, I'm ready to pick you up tonight or tomorrow night." Billy knew what Leslie was thinking, so he wanted to help her. And if it turned out the way everyone thought it would, he might have a chance to win this girl over. "Billy, I've lived with this man for years, and I know he's doing something, although he won't tell me. But now, if he has another woman, I wouldn't really want to know about it," she admitted to him honestly. "Let's just check to see if he's home at night or not," Billy suggested to her. "Okay, I agree. Come back tomorrow, I'll call you," she said, and wanted to get up to go see him off, but the man wouldn't let her. "What are you doing?" He held her hand. "Leslie, I like you so much. Tell me if I have any chance at all," he asked her a direct question. "I think not." She lowered her eyes, because she couldn't look at the interlocutor, whom she also liked very much. There was no change in her life. Now she was thinking more and more often about her mother, where she was, how she lived, how she was doing, why she was doing, why she was here helping other people, and why she had given up on her mother. But how would she come to her mother if she told her not to call her, and she didn't call her herself? Leslie began to calculate in her mind how old her mother was, and realized that she was quite old because Selena had given birth to her at a late age, and now she was well over 60. But Leslie dismissed all thoughts of her mom. She didn't want to think about sad things, and she started thinking about Nicholas, what he had said to her today and how things were going for them. She called him the next night because there were hardly any patients that needed careful care, and she had a few hours of free time. Within minutes of her call, Billy was already outside the hospital. Leslie got into his car, and they drove to her house. There were no lights in the windows, but that didn't mean no one was home, because Harvey could just be asleep. If he's home, you'll tell him you forgot something, and if he's not home, you'll just come out and we'll figure out what to do, Billy taught her. Leslie walked into the entryway, went up to the floor, went into her apartment. There was silence at home. She went through a room, then another, into the kitchen. There was no one anywhere. She realized the apartment was empty. That meant only one thing, that Harvey really hadn't spent the night at home when she was on duty. For the first time in her life, a feeling like anger played in Leslie. She didn't want to know where he was. She just wanted to get back at him because she had given him her love for so many years. She had once chosen him over her studies, had a fight with her mother, hadn't spoken to her in so many years. And all for what? To make him leave. So she went down to the street, got in her car, sat in silence for a long time. "I take it he's not home," Billy said. "No," Leslie confirmed. "Come on, let's not get off our backs. Let's wait until tomorrow night and see if you want to follow him," he suggested. "Yes, I agree, give him another chance," the girl said slowly. They drove back to the hospital. There they talked some more. After that, Billy left her here. He himself drove home. What she had been thinking about today, mostly about what she could do at night. Yes, she understood that some people worked at night, but there was no way she could apply those occupations to her husband. The next day when she got home in the morning, Harvey was sleeping peacefully. "Harvey," she patted him on the shoulder, but he didn't even move. "Harvey." She touched him again. "Mom," he mumbled. "Were you home last night?" she asked. "Leave me alone, none of your business." He waved her away for the umpteenth time. It was hurtful. But Leslie didn't say anything, and today, while she was on duty, she and Billy came here again, to their apartment, and again saw the same picture as last night. "I want to get back at him," Leslie said aloud to Billy. "And I can help you do that," he smiled. "How?" She couldn't think of anything on her own. "Let's meet tomorrow afternoon. And so that we don't have to be on the run or in the hospital, we'll just talk about the situation," Billy suggested. "You're giving me a date." She looked at him. "Why not?" He didn't deny it. Leslie smiled, and with that smile she got out of the car. The next day, while Harvey slept at home, Leslie got ready and went with Billy to the cafe. By now, she was already disgusted to even look at this man tricking her. Why stay home? And whatever Billy suggested, she was ready for anything. But she couldn't even guess what the man could offer. She walked into the cafe. He was already there. "Hi." She said hello to him. "Hello, come in." He had already made some kind of order. Now he was sitting there, just waiting for her. "Thank you," she nodded. "So what are you saying? You're ready for anything?" He was smiling strangely. "I guess so," Leslie answered uncertainly. "So probably or definitely. But be warned, it's going to be a big surprise for him," Billy told her with a chuckle. "I'm ready. How much longer can I take it?" She nodded to him in agreement. And Billy began to tell her his plan. Leslie listened, her eyes getting wider and wider. "It's cruel," she said, when she had heard the whole thing. "But we'll know exactly where he is and what he's doing. And then he won't have any more excuses. And he won't have any more excuses from you." He took her hand in his. "Okay, I agree. But promise that if anything goes wrong, we'll admit right away that it was just a prank. Just a surprise." She was looking at Billy now. "Okay, whatever you say, but..." He himself didn't believe in such miracles. The next day, Leslie went on duty as usual. She kept replaying in her head the plan Billy had told her. She was to call her husband at night and tell him that something had happened in the house, and that something was a very terrible crime that Leslie was afraid to even think about. Billy at his station had alerted everyone, and since it was at night, it was easy to pull off. At first, the girl wanted to share it with her friends, but then she decided it wasn't worth it. And now that the station was quiet, she knew Billy was just waiting for her to give the word. She dialed her husband's number. "Hi," she said to him. "Hey, Leslie, what are you doing up so late?" Harvey was surprised. "Where are you, home?" Simply, if it was an ordinary call, it would be surprising that a man at 3 o'clock in the morning, just like that, just picked up the phone. "Of course I'm home. Where else would I be?" Harvey replied in surprise. "What are you doing there?" the wife asked her husband. "Leslie, what kind of stupid questions? What can you do at 3 in the morning, of course, sleeping?" You could hear that he was worried. "But I have other information," she replied. "I don't understand. What is it?" Harvey did not even suspect that his wife could come up with something like that. "The neighbor called the police, said that in our apartment for several hours, someone moans and calls for help." Leslie fell out in one breath. "What? What are you saying? Are you crazy here? I'm home. There's no one here." I could hear how Harvey's voice began to shake more violently. "Well, I'm not accusing you of anything yet. It's just that the police called me right away. I'm on duty. I'm going to take my leave now and go there, to our apartment. But if you're home, just get up and open the door for them," the girl said calmly. "Yes, now." Harvey hung up the phone. The girl realized that he wasn't home and that it would take him some time to get there. So for now, no one was going anywhere. Billy and his deputies were in the yard. Leslie was quietly packing to go home. The man made sure she was brought in because he couldn't do it himself. So when they saw Harvey enter the entryway, they immediately rushed after him. When the man entered the apartment, he was numb with horror. There were women's things lying in the corridor, and when he went further, he saw that on the sofa lay a bound girl. She was crying, screaming, her legs bruised. "Who are you?" He bent over her. "We want to ask you, who are you?" He heard voices behind him. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" At this point, he was given an ID and immediately charged. "Yes, I didn't do anything." Harvey was shaking all over. He didn't know what to say, what to do. "And why were you so frightened if you claimed that you were not at home?" began to ask him Billy. At that moment, Leslie entered the apartment and froze on the threshold. "Leslie, believe me, I didn't do anything like that. I don't know where that girl came from," Harvey shouted to her. "Could it be that I brought her here?" she asked calmly. "I don't know who brought her here, but it certainly wasn't me." The man seemed like he was about to cry. "So, you're in custody," Billy handcuffed him. "How can this be? I have proof I wasn't home," he shouted. "Oh, you weren't home." Leslie was following him. "Yes, I can prove it," he shouted at them. "When you prove it, then we'll think about what to do next," the police said calmly. They put him in the car and took him to the police station. "This is arbitrary. I will complain," he shouted on the way. "I don't understand what you're so afraid of if you're not guilty," Billy talked to him. "If the cops came after you in the middle of the night, wouldn't you be guilty?" he asked him in a broken voice. They brought him to the station, sat him at a table, and a young sergeant began to write a report. "Yes. What are you doing?" "I didn't do anything, Leslie." "Where is my wife?" "Let her come. I need to talk to her." Looked around Harvey, looking for his wife. "If you need to, we can arrange a meeting with her." Billy said calmly. He left the office, found Leslie, told her everything. I agreed to talk to him, she replied. I'm just interested in what he has to say, what his alibi is, where he's been. Basically, what it was all about. The girl looked up at the man. I don't mind at all. It's your story. It's your surprise. Your revenge. Please. He took her to one of the offices, sat her down at a table, promised that he would bring her husband here soon. Harvey was pathetic to look at now. If before he was a brutal, strong man, now he had turned into a pathetic little man who was ready to kneel down and beg for forgiveness, saying he wasn't home and he didn't do it all. Here you go, talk all you want. Billy led him over to Leslie. Thank you, Harvey turned to him, then stared unblinkingly at his wife for a long time. Is there something you want to tell me? She asked. Yes, he answered quietly and lowered his head. I'm listening to you carefully. Leslie put her hands together. She didn't know what she was about to hear, and she was afraid of her reaction to it. I've been to your mother's, he said, and was silent for a few seconds. Wow, wrinkled Leslie's forehead, not checking into what her husband was saying. Believe it or not, I can prove it to you. He wasn't looking at her now. What men can't think of to hide their cheating? She grinned. Inside, Leslie didn't recognize herself. She'd never been like this, but now that she'd been betrayed, sitting across from him and lying to his eyes, she couldn't help but talk about it. Your mother is in a nursing home, Harvey said quickly. What do you mean you don't get it? She replied. What's not to understand? You haven't spoken to her in so long. And one day, when you were in the bathroom, she called. I answered and she said she wasn't feeling well. I knew you were upset with her and wouldn't go to her, so I took off. First, I took her to the hospital, but there she started to do some strange things. She started not recognizing anyone, talking nonsense. So I was advised to put her in a nursing home. Harvey began to tell me, Yeah, what are you telling me? Leslie didn't understand. She got agitated, got up, started walking around the office. I'm telling you the truth, he answered her more confidently. Why didn't any of the doctors call me? She stopped by the desk. How should I know? He turned away from her again. Harvey, tell me you're lying to me. My head was spinning. What to do now was unknown. Why would I lie to you? You saw what happened in our apartment. Who did it? I don't know. Every night I go to your mother, talk to her, sit with her, help her. He fell silent. Why didn't you tell me anything then? I would have gone too. As you know, I work as a nurse. I would have quit my job and gone there to her. She didn't understand again what he was saying here. How could I know that you wanted to go to her? I thought that now, when she comes to her senses, I'll tell you. And then we'll go to her together. Harvey continued to talk nonsense. Stop lying to me. She sat back in her chair. Why do you think I'm lying to you? He was turning into the same person he'd been at home lately. Why did you go to her at night and not during the day? Now Leslie's mind was starting to fall into place and she was able to ask sensible questions. How do I know why your mother demanded that I visit her only at night? He answered. That's it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Tell me the address where you've been. She still didn't believe what her husband was saying, but she had to see for herself. Harvey dictated the address. She looked at him again, now with contempt, ran out of the office, and immediately ran into Billy. Billy, I need to go to this address right away, she told him. Why do you need to go there? He didn't understand. Let's go. I'll tell you all about it on the way, she said in a hurry. Leslie grabbed her bag. They ran out into the yard, got in the car, and drove off. So what did he say to you? Billy was curious. Can you believe it? And she told him everything her husband had just told her. Oh my God, that's crazy, he shook his head. That's what I'm saying, but he's saying something that's unbelievable. You could tell Leslie was getting hysterical. It was always like this when she didn't know what to do. They arrived at the address Harvey had given her. It was indeed a nursing home. Leslie looked at the gate and cried, Calm down. It's going to be okay. If your mom is really here, we'll figure it all out, the man next to her reassured her. Thank you. She looked at him. Billy got out of the car. He walked over to the security guard. They talked about something. After that, he got back in the car, he grinned. What? Leslie looked at him. They don't let visitors in here at night. You could guess that right away. He watched the guard go into his booth. Well, please, Billy, can you arrange, if my mother is here, to let me in? She asked him tearfully. Okay, I'll see what I can do. He got out of the car again and went to the guard. He radioed something to someone. Then he looked at the car and nodded his head. Let's go. Billy came up to Leslie. He took her hand and together they went through the gate and went to the main entrance. Do you realize that everyone is asleep right now? One of the staff told them. Of course we understand, but you also understand us. I have this situation. It's my mother, and I didn't even know she was here. Leslie began to cry. She was led to a room. She knocked quietly and entered. The woman was lying on the bed, but her daughter did not immediately recognize her. Mommy, she called softly. Who's there? She heard the answer immediately. Mommy, it's me. Leslie sat down on the bed. Leslie, she grabbed her hands. Where have you been so long? Tears came out of Selena's eyes. Mom, tell me how you got here. Why Harvey? Why didn't you call me? She asked her. She couldn't. The woman leaned back on the pillow, lay staring at the ceiling. I don't understand. Leslie was shaking, thinking to herself that this wasn't happening to her. I called you to apologize. I felt bad. I had a heart attack and everything. Harvey answered, you know we don't talk much. Told him you should call me because I was feeling really bad, and he showed up himself. The woman began to tell me, but it was so confusing and unclear that you had to guess what she was talking about. And what happened next? Leslie wanted to hear the rest of the story. And then some paramedics came. I thought he'd called an ambulance. They gave me some pills and gave me a shot. After that, I couldn't do anything else. My legs collapsed. I constantly forget everything. Then, for a while, I remember. But again, they gave me some pills. Injections, tears, rolled from her eyes without stopping. And now you tell me so you understand and recognize. Leslie did not understand. I don't have any means of communication. My legs don't move. My hands do something. If I make any attempt, the paramedics come immediately. And again, I am in frustration, said Selena. Now wait. Leslie ran out of the room. She found Billy, ran up to him and told him what she had just heard from her mother. It's all what the guy who brought them here heard. What are you listening to her for? She's a crazy old woman. She's going to tell you things, he said. No, Billy, we must take my mother to the hospital and examine her. Something is definitely wrong with her, the girl said. No one will let us do that now, but in the morning I promise you that we will do everything that depends on us, the man answered her. Leslie agreed. She went back to her mother and told her everything. Okay, daughter, I will wait for you. She closed her eyes. After that, it was necessary to decide what to do, either to stay in this city, where her mother lived, or to go back. Look, I have the keys to the apartment where Mom and I used to live, Leslie said, and looked at Billy. She realized that they would have to spend the night under the same roof. That's great, let's go. We don't have to drive back to come back here again tomorrow, he told her. They got in the car and drove to where Leslie's childhood had been. When they pulled into the yard, the girl cried, "What are you doing?" The one next to her looked at her. You know, how many happy days passed here. Then I could never have thought that everything could turn into a story like this, wiped Leslie's tears. They got out of the car, went up to the floor, and just started to open the door as the old lady neighbor looked out of the next apartment. "Hello, Maddie, are you awake?" Leslie asked her quietly, so as not to wake up the other tenants. "Yes, I have insomnia. So I go and see who is knocking and pounding on the doors," she replied. "How are you doing?" smiled Leslie, remembering this kind neighbor who lived here always. "I'm fine. But how are you?" she asked a strange question. "What about me? I'm fine too," Leslie answered her. Yes, it would be fine if your husband didn't come here every night, Maddie replied. Leslie had had so many discoveries tonight that he couldn't keep all the information in his head. What's not to understand? He came here every night. I asked him what he was doing here. He said he was watching the apartment, watering the flowers. I thought maybe he didn't have time during the day, or maybe you had an emergency. The woman shrugged. And you didn't think that I could do it. Leslie was in such shock that she wanted to erase everything from her memory. I don't care who's after this apartment. It's not going to bring Selena back. Maddie shuddered. What do you mean, not back? The girl didn't understand her. Because your Harvey said she's the one, Maddie gestured. The girl started to settle down at the door. Leslie. Billy managed to pick her up. The granny neighbor closed the doors, stepped inside. Billy and Leslie also entered the apartment. He turned on the lights, went into the kitchen, and carried the girl to the couch in the room. Billy looked to see if there was water in the kettle, put it on the stove. Tell me what's going on. Maybe it's nighttime. I fell asleep in the hospital, and I'm having some kind of nightmare. Leslie asked him. You can imagine? And I have such a nightmare at work every day, he told her. After that, he went to the kitchen. He wanted to make tea, but he couldn't find it. Leslie was so dizzy from everything that had happened today that she could not imagine what she would do. She knew one thing for sure, that she had to take her mom to the hospital in the morning. After that, she had to quit her job to be near her most dear person. What are you thinking about right now? Billy asked her. I don't know about anything. My head is spinning, she answered on an exhalation. Maybe you know where you have tea in the kitchen. The man dared to ask. He was still hoping to have tea. Yes, of course. She got up from the couch, went to the kitchen, pulled out a box of tea. Right there, she and Billy sat down, made themselves a stiff drink. Leslie stared at one point. Why don't you show me the pictures? Billy wanted to distract her from her bad thoughts. Yes, sure now. Now Leslie got up, went into the room, opened the closet, pulled out an album from there, and brought it back to the kitchen. When Billy opened it and began to look at it, he smiled. First there was Leslie's little one. After that it was him and his mom. Here they were, walking in the park. Here they were at the zoo, at the sea, on a holiday somewhere. The man looked at the pictures. He liked everything. Yes, it was a good time. The girl shook her head. She too looked at the pictures, and everything that was in the past came back to her now. And come on, I'll show you my room. For some reason, the girl had no doubt that her mother had not touched anything there. She walked through the hall, and next was her room. She went into it as she supposed. Everything was exactly the same there. Oh, how cozy you have it here, Billy said to her. Yes, really, this is where my bed used to be. It just wasn't there now. And here's the closet that used to be my office. Leslie took hold of the handle of the closet door and pulled it, but it wouldn't open for some reason. What? Is it jammed? Billy asked. No, nothing. It's never jammed. Leslie looked up in surprise and found that there was a lock on the door. Do you know where the key is? Billy asked, wondering now what kind of office his mother had decided to lock. There was no key. There was no lock, she said. And at that time they heard some muffled moaning or banging. They did not understand. I think it's coming from over there. Billy looked at her. Please don't scare me. The girl began to shake again. Billy tried to yank the door a couple of times, but it wouldn't budge. Then he asked Leslie if there were any tools in the house. They found a nailer, and with it the man managed to open the ill-fated door. What they saw, Leslie couldn't have dreamed of. Please help. There was a young girl sitting there. She had a gag in her mouth, but it was still clear what she was saying. Who are you? Billy asked her, because Leslie wasn't herself. Then the man took the gag out of her mouth and untied her hands. Give me a drink, the girl asked. Leslie quickly went to the kitchen, brought her some water, and she greedily took a few sips. So, who are you? The man asked her again. My name is Naomi, she answered and cried. She saw that Billy was in a policeman's uniform and just threw herself on his neck. I don't understand anything. Tell me what's going on, Leslie said through her tears. Wait, Billy stopped her. Naomi, tell me, how did you get here? He thought he could talk to her better. I came from the country. I was looking for an apartment. I met Harvey. He said he could help me with that. He brought me here, and then he took me into this room, tied me up, gagged me, closed me up, and then for months I just came here. She cried. And no one was looking for you. The policeman didn't understand. There is an old mother left in the village. She has no phone or communication. I think she just thought that I was better off in the city, so she didn't look for me, Naomi continued to cry. Okay, everyone, let's pack up. Let's go back to our place in town. Billy didn't command, but gave clear instructions. Leslie couldn't feel her arms or legs. She closed the doors to the apartment. They went downstairs, got in the car, drove off. On the way, everyone was silent. Only once did Naomi ask to pull over. There was a diner on the way. She asked them to buy her at least a pie. Of course, Billy and Leslie did everything and then watched as the girl greedily ate it. Thank you so much for saving me, she told them as they drove back to the station. Harvey was still there. All right, get him to the interview room. Get the girl to eat and take her statement, Billy ordered his co-workers. They all got big eyes. Nobody understood anything. They had known from the evening before that this was going to be a prank, some kind of surprise, and they had promised to play along. What was happening now was unclear. Billy walked in where Harvey was sitting and waiting for him. Well, boy, did you get the jump? He put his hands on the table and looked at Harvey. What do you mean? He answered. You're about to find out. That's when Naomi was brought in. Eek, Harvey just said. Do you recognize it? Billy pressed his lips together. Harvey didn't say another word. He just lowered his head and shook it. It was all understood. After that, in the morning, Leslie went to her mom's house to take her to the hospital. Billy, his partners, and Harvey went to the apartment where they had been yesterday with Leslie. There they did a full examination, and also Harvey showed them and told them how and what he did. Poisoned a woman to get her out of that apartment, kidnapped a girl. What's wrong with your head? You okay? Billy had seen a lot of things in his life, but something like this. When they'd looked around the room today, he'd seen that this wasn't spontaneous, but planned. The room was lined with soundproofing material so that nothing could be heard. There were also other items that the girl needed when she was alone. Billy arrived at Leslie's house, who was already in the hospital, and asked her how she was doing. The doctor said that her condition was serious, but that she would probably stay in the hospital for a while and recover. Are you with me? He held out his hand to her. Yes, Leslie nodded. She still had a lot of unfinished business in that town, and she had to be a witness at a trial that was going to take place. But when was unknown. Billy and Leslie got in the car, driving off. Both were silent because what had happened in the last few days was just a shock to everyone. You know, I just wanted to surprise him, to make him realize how bad it was to betray people close to you, and it turned out. Leslie said slowly, because she couldn't imagine living with a man like that. What was he missing? Don't be upset, Billy took her hand again. Thank you for everything. She rested her head on his shoulder. She went home today, called work, said she was a little sick and would be home for a few days. The next day, Billy came to see her, but she told him she didn't want to see him yet. 3 days later, Leslie called Billy herself, asking him to come over. She had missed him so much in the days he was gone that she realized she couldn't go on without him. Hi, he walked into her apartment. Billy, I realize that you are a very nice, decent man, and I want to continue to stay in touch with you further. She didn't want to hide anything from him. Right now, Leslie felt like she needed psychological help. I'd do anything for you just to have you around. But I'm not rushing you anywhere. We can just stay friends for now, see each other, talk. As time went on, Leslie filed for divorce. Harvey was dragged through interrogations, but there was nothing to prove because Naomi painted everything in colors as it was. Harvey didn't deny much. He just realized he was trapped. At the trial, he yelled something to Leslie, but she wouldn't look at him or listen. When she was called as a witness, She quickly recounted everything she had seen and knew, as well as her mother's condition, and just walked out of the courtroom. She wasn't interested in what or how this man was going to be treated. Now she blamed herself for the fact that once, many years ago, she had not listened to her mother and had not done as she said. "Girl, I'm coming to see you." Billy was walking towards her and smiling. "And I'm glad," she smiled back. "My dear Leslie, will you agree to be my wife?" He got down on one knee and handed her a box containing a very beautiful ring. Of course she hugged him, and today she knew for sure that she had made the right choice. "Then, let's go to the registry office to apply," he told her. "Come on." She took his arm and they headed to where Billy had invited her. "I can't give you a date until a month and a half from now." The woman who was taking the application looked up at him. "That's fine with us." Leslie looked at Billy. "Yeah, whatever you say, honey." He didn't mind. Afterward, they went to the restaurant. Leslie called Kathy and Lucy, telling them the happy news. They were delighted to come to the meeting. They remembered how many years ago they had sat in the cafe and discussed Nastya's wedding with Harvey. "Don't please, girls," she asked them. All right, shut up." They waved their hands. "There was so much to do," said Katie, as usual, who cared about everything. "I don't think we're inviting a lot of friends and acquaintances, are we?" Leslie looked at her boyfriend. "I think so, girls. You'll go. A couple of my friends. But we'll definitely invite your mom." Billy looked at Leslie with loving eyes. It was unconditional, she realized now, that this man had never wished her harm, only good. Leslie didn't buy a dress. She had done it once before. It didn't work out. She decided to go to the registry office in a simple cream suit. "Are you sure it's the right thing to do?" Katie asked her. "I'm sure of everything." She smiled at her friend. Leslie now felt with all her being that she was happy. She had everything she could ever dream of. A wonderful man by her side, a practically healthy mom, a job, friends. "Tell me, I've been meaning to ask you, how did Mady, your mom's neighbor, react when she came back?" Billy asked Leslie one day. "I don't even know. She didn't tell me." She shrugged, but it didn't matter now. "So are you ready for tomorrow?" Billy asked her. Today, Katie had suggested to him that Leslie stay with her, that it was bad luck to see a bride before the wedding. But it was bad luck to see a bride before the wedding. But he took his future wife in his arms and said he would never, ever let her go anywhere from him. "I love you," she whispered in his ear. "You have no idea how much I love you." He held her close. She touched the scar from that wound with her fingers. "I remember all the books you've read. I 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 remember all the books you read to me. At first I thought an angel had come to the room. He was burrowing in her hair and kissing her." "Listen, where's Naomi now?" she asked her husband-to-be. "I do not know. Studying, or maybe she went home," he said. "And let's invite her to the wedding too," suggested Leslie. "And where will I find her? Because the holiday tomorrow." He made a surprised face. "I know you can do anything." She kissed him on the chin. "Okay, I promise to find her, but only if she's not too far away." They hugged. "All right, let's go to bed. It's late." "There will be a bride with dark circles under her eyes tomorrow," laughed Leslie. "Good night, my love." He kissed her. "I love you," she echoed him. The next day, Billy met Selena at the station in the morning, and then went to the station to get Naomi's address. He took both her school and home address, just in case. Then he went and found her. "Hello." The girl was scared. "It's okay, don't be afraid. I want to invite you to the wedding." He handed her an invitation. "Wow." She looked at him with such eyes that Billy was amazed. The girl had endured so much humiliation and pain, but she still believed in miracles. "That's it. We're expecting you in a couple hours, or you can come with me right now," he suggested. If I can, I'll go with you. She looked back at her girlfriends who were waiting for her. Pack up, just quickly. He went to the car to wait for her. Back at home, Leslie met her mom. Selena already looked much better than the last time her daughter had seen her. She was able to get around with the help of a walker, but at home, she could walk on her own. Mommy, I'm sorry for everything, her daughter hugged her. Yes. Well, who will remember the old? Cried the woman. And Leslie saw that she was not strict and not evil. A completely normal woman who loves and fears for her child. Everyone was ready. It was only necessary to get to the registry office. Everyone loaded into the cars and drove off. Katie and Lucy looked at Leslie and realized that now she was truly happy. They arrived, the bride and groom were all dressed up. Billy had decided not to buy himself any suit either. He had put on his dress uniform and now they looked very handsome. I agree. Or I agree, rings, a kiss, and then the restaurant. Congratulations from friends and girlfriends. Mom looked at her daughter, and now she saw that next to her sights really her soulmate, a man who will protect, provide, and do everything for his wife. May I say a word? Leslie asked for silence from her friends. Sure. Quiet, everyone, the bride is speaking, said Kathy loudly. My dear and beloved relatives and friends, she looked fondly at her mother, and then shifted her gaze to her husband. He stood up beside her. Leslie, what are you so worried about? Can we tell you later? He asked in her ear. No, I want to say it now. She shook her head. Okay, he agreed with her. Yes, I had a first marriage, and maybe not as successful as this one. I'm saying this also because I really want a child, but God didn't give it to me. I guess he saw what kind of a father he would have. At this point, Billy took his wife's hand. He knew it was a sore subject for her. Why are you talking about it? He didn't understand. Quiet, cried Leslie. Silence put his finger to his lips, husband. All the others have long been silent without it. I want to say that God saw Billy at first sight and immediately rewarded him with a baby. She took hold of her stomach. No way. Billy jumped up on the spot and hugged his wife. His mom cried, his friends rejoiced. The young went home. Now Billy protected his flower, did not let her do anything. And a few months later, happy parents walking through the park with a blue stroller, they were happy. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.